The Bills, are they the best team in the AFC? Because they are 5.5 to 1. They're ahead of the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl.
I think you should give the title the best team in the NFL right now, right?
Ooh, sure.
I mean, who else would you put ahead of them? Arizona?
The Cards or the Bucks, maybe?
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd put either. So yeah, I would say the Buffalo Bills are the number one team right now. You can't understate too how big that win was, versus Kansas City, especially for home field in the playoffs and how things could turn out. So
enormous.
And I think you look at the offseason too, and what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott did, just essentially saying like, hey, we know what we need to do in order to get to a Super Bowl. That's how we're going to draft. That's what we're going to focus on this entire offseason. That's what they did. Like, they don't even have to pressure really, because they can get pressure with that front four. That's a valuable tool and asset. And I also think the one difference between Josh Allen and Mahomes is because they have ridiculous arm talent. Like, I personally think Josh Allen has a stronger arm, but not by much. But I also think Mahomes can throw from a bunch of different angles, maybe more so than Josh Allen. The X factor to me is they're both mobile. Josh is willing to use it, and he's more durable because of his size. He's like that much bigger than Patrick, who's not small by any means. But Josh has a little bit more of that athleticism, pop, like mobility.
Josh is, and like
you saw in that. You saw in that first drive, like when they started running, it was like, oh, and now the Kansas City defense has to worry about this. Like, as bad as they've been this year, there's no way you're going to be able to stop an offense that has that ability to throw the football, run the football, and include their quarterback in that mix.
Yeah, and I thought it was the general approach by the Bills for this game. You said they've been building for this. They're also building to beat Kansas City. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Teams did this for years with the New England Patriots, where they would.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying is like the entire offseason draft, everything, it was all built based on to beat Kansas City.
Yes.
They don't care about their division. They're just looking at what do we need to do to get the Super Bowl. It's get past Kansas City. That's what I was trying to say. I'm not sure if you heard that part.
Well, that's the beauty of it. A good host brings it out.
That's right. That's right. Even though I do think you might have just repeated it. Maybe we can go to Debo and that get some input from him.
It's probably likely that I repeated it. I was trying to coordinate. Yeah. I was trying to coordinate an advertisement read in the middle of it. So yeah,
but you seem distracted. Yes,
I'm always distracted. No, I mean, look, they came out with a different offensive game plan than they'd used all year. With Josh Allen running, and it threw the Chiefs for a loop. And they came out with this defensive game plan that said, "We're gonna." I know you just said that.
No. Can we be real about this though? Like, this is an awful Chiefs defense.
Awful.
It's gonna keep them from being able to be potentially up. I think even in the AFC Championship game.
Wow.
Like, let's be real. They're 2-3. This defense right now, like I saw this out there, and you're a big stat guy, so I'm sure you can back this up. So the St. Louis Rams, the greatest show on turf, averaged 7 yards per play, I believe, in that year, and 2,000, whatever it was. And the Chiefs are giving up 7.1 yards per play.
That's crazy.
I saw that somewhere. I'm like, good God, that is like the opposite, obviously, of the greatest show on turf. It's like allowing the greatest show on turf to walk into your stadium every single time you're playing defense, right?
And like you're turning, and you're not playing. So the Chiefs are
obviously you're not playing Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, and Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, everyone else, Azakim. You're not playing all those guys. Orlando Pace, like you're just every single team that walks in that turns into them is essentially what you've done.
And I will say, look, they've had a tough schedule. Browns, Ravens, Chargers, and Bills are four of the best teams in that division or that conference. Excuse me. And then
conference, yeah.
Yeah, and the Eagles were fine. I mean, they took care of business against them, but they still gave up a ton of points. And the defense, if you like, yes, I mean the defense is trash. It's very bad. Would you bet them?
They didn't have Chris Jones. That's part of it too, right? Yeah. But
would you bet them at plus 750 to win the Super Bowl, or do you need better odds?
What are the Bills at right now?
Bills are 5.5 to 1. Chiefs are 7.5 to 1.
I mean, I would go with the Bills right now because I think either way it's plus money, and you could say, oh, they'll turn it around. I mean, Chiefs are capable of going on a 12-game win streak at this point, right? Like you could say that. I don't know though. I think it's hard to feel that way considering how bad their defense has been. I think it puts them in compromising spots offensively, and I just have a hard time believing that's going to be the case, especially considering we already watched the Chargers beat them this year. I'm not even sure they win the division at this point if their defense keeps playing this bad.
So to win the division, the Chiefs are 3.5 to 1. That is crazy. It has probably been 10 years since they've been that high. I mean, they just win the division all the time. Oh, excuse me, to win the conference. Oh, never mind. Devo said AFC. I'm an idiot. I was like, man, I'm going to be distracted because I'm about to go bet that. I still think they're minus 125 to win the division. Interesting. That's still, I don't mind it. I think they're good enough where they'll figure something out. They also have Washington, Tennessee coming up, the Giants. But then before the bye, they have Packers, Raiders, Cowboys. So those two games against the Packers and the Cowboys are pretty huge. They don't count as much in terms of the AFC slotting out, but if you win those games, you feel like you're back in the race in the division, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Plus, just for your own confidence and mojo with everything, right?
For sure.
So I mean, look, they're never a team you're going to write off because they have Mahomes, because they have Andy Reid. But let's be real too. You know, Patrick is turning over the football now more than he really ever has, at least to start off a season. And the funny thing is I've always said this, like a lot of those throws and things that you see, like you saw in him at Texas Tech, the difference was like the way the field spread, the fact that you're playing against lesser defenses, so that ball finds the ground more often than not. But I mean, that would have been one of the things you said about him if you were like evaluating him coming out was, yeah, he takes some chances, he throws some balls into coverage, and he's got a lot of confidence in his arm strength and ability to hit those windows. But that's going to create some turnovers from time to time. You know?
That's what people said about him. They're like, it wouldn't be surprising if Mahomes came in and led the league in picks, because he's so risky and he
got 50 touchdowns and 24 interceptions. Like that's very possible because as much as talented as he is, he also takes those sorts of chances.
No doubt about it. Mahomes, by the way, now at 16 TDs and 6 picks on the season through 5 games. So interception rate at 3.1. I believe that would be the highest interception rate of his career, but let me confirm that. Yes, by a lot. 2.9 in 2017, which didn't really count because one game, 2.1 in his MVP season of 2018 and 1% the last 2 years. So throwing a lot more picks than he was before. In